Munati.
Meaning something sweet.
Munati, your TV on the go.
Catch us anywhere, anytime, as long as you have a device and internet.
Munati TV is Zambia's first internet TV station.
And internet is just not in Zambia, meaning Munati TV cuts across all borders with viewers all the way from USA, Botswana, South Africa, the UK, and world over.
Internet is the future.
And the future is now.
Welcome to the future. Welcome to Munati.
Your TV on the go.
Munati TV, your TV on the go. This is your favorite program, Transforming Lives with Mushakwa, where we discuss real life stories and real life issues that have happened within our country, Zambia. And we share to you, our viewers, how these are impactful to you. So today we're looking at one very important subject, which is property grabbing. This was a very common practice not so long ago. I actually thought it had died out. So, is property grabbing after a spouse dies still a practice that is ongoing even today? So that is something that we're going to discover today. We have a very nice story to share with you today. So this is a story of someone within our country, Zambia, who went through something. This is a man. One thing he says is that he vows to never ever marry again. That is so strong. So let's discover exactly why someone would actually vow to do that. We're going to share to you a story of someone who gave us the permission to share this story. Of course, for their own reasons, they couldn't really be captured live, but they gave us the permission to actually share this story with you, our viewers, for the purpose of you to learn what experiences people are actually going through in this life, what he went through, how he came out of it, and if anyone is going through that situation, how can you also learn and come out of it? So because we were only given permission to share this story, we're not going to use the real name of the man that we'll be discussing who actually gave us this permission. All right? So because it's a story, we're going to call him Mr. B. And this is how the story begins. So Mr. B, okay, was happily married, as he told us himself, for about 6 to 7 years. Okay, he said he loved his wife very much. Unfortunately, in that period of their marriage, they were unable to have a child. But that is something that, according to him, he said was something that was okay with him because of the circumstances his wife found herself in due to medical issues. So his wife had a problem that is very well known to women. It's called fibroids. So these fibroids were very intensive, actually. So because of her issue with the same fibroids, I think maybe that could have been one of the reasons why she was not able to conceive. But he was, however, unaffected by, by that situation. He accepted the way things were, and according to him, he felt his marriage was a happy one, for the 6 to 7 years that he was married. And in this period, he says he didn't have any problems with the relatives, whether, from his side or the lady's side, they didn't have any serious problems. Of course, there isn't any marriage that is just smooth riding. Every marriage has its own ups and downs. So now, because of the issues of the fibroids that his wife was going through, it reached a point where they became very, very serious. So actually what happened is that the relatives to the woman went to his house and got her and said that, I think because of the way her situation has become serious, it would be better for us to actually keep her and nurse her sickness, or nurse her during her illness. So that's how his wife, he took his wife to her relatives, so that at least they could nurse her sickness as it was becoming worse. Yeah. So that took quite, a period of time, because it was really getting to a state where the disease was worsening. So he would just frequently go and visit her relatives' home if he wants to check on her and, take the necessities that are required. But it reached a point where she felt so ill, they had to rush her to a hospital. But then they rushed her to a private hospital. So we all know how expensive these private hospitals are, There are some that are, quite pricey. So unfortunately, it was to a hospital where it was quite pricey, and he was just got to say, no, we're at this hospital. These expensive hospitals, They are very expensive hospitals, even within Lusaka here, so we can't mention them. So he just dashed there, and she was on observation, and how obviously just consultation fees is so high, and after the observation they said no, she needed to be admitted. And how admission costs are, the per night, whatever. So those are bills that her family just said, no, this is what is happening, and we don't have money. That was her family. They told him, we don't have the money. So of course, that was his wife, and he had to cover those bills, as and when they arose. So she was admitted probably for about 5 days or so, and after that discharged. And of course, when you are discharged, they'll give you a review date. So the time that she was discharged, she was given a review date after 2 weeks, I think. And that's how he took her to her family, because they're the ones who said, no, we'll nurse her sickness until she gets better, then we'll bring her back to you. Since it was just him and her, So that's how he took her home, and everything was okay. She looked like she was actually improving, So review date came after the 2 weeks that she was given, and he went to pick her up from there, took her to the hospital, and while at the hospital, of course, there are fees that come with that as well. He had to foot the bill as well. So already, when he explained, he said just from the sickness, the admission, the review, it was quite a large amount of money in terms of the bill. And of course, he also had a tight financial schedule, but he just had to foot all that by himself, everything. So after review, that's how he drove her back home. And then when he reached home, the place, of course, at her relatives, he was like, no, let me dash home so that I can just clean up and buy a few things, and we'll come back later. So, and that's how he drove to his house, to their marital home. When he just got home, he just gets a phone call from one of her relatives, and they are crying in the background, and he's wondering why. And then they said, no, just after you left us, when she just got out of the car, because he just left, and then he said, no, let me dash, because he had left some little kids who had come to visit, let me dash back. So they said, no, just when you left us, she just walked out of the car and collapsed, and that's it. That's how she died. So now they're like, no, I think we'll hold the funeral from the same place where she was, being nursed when she was sick. So that's how everything changed for him. So now it was from the sickness and everything, now it was a funeral, suddenly, just like that. So that's how he didn't even, do what he had to do. Quickly he said, now it's a funeral, I'm out of money. Because all the money that he had from his little savings, they all went to pay the bill because of the private hospital bills. You know how expensive some hospitals are. It was one of these very expensive hospitals. So he's now out of money. The funeral is upon him. Her family are saying they don't have money. And now what does he do? So please catch me after the break so that we find out what happens now after this announcement of the funeral.
Munati.
Meaning something sweet.
Munati, your TV on the go.
Catch us anywhere, anytime, as long as you have a device and internet.
Munati TV is Zambia's first internet TV station.
And internet is just not in Zambia, meaning Munati TV cuts across all borders with viewers all the way from USA, Botswana, South Africa, the UK, and world over.
Internet is the future.
And the future is now.
Welcome to the future. Welcome to Munati.
Your TV on the go.
Munati TV, your TV on the go. Welcome back. This is Transforming Lives. I'm your host, Mushakwa. And we have a very touching story we're sharing today. So I hope you're with us. And please, in our comments on the Facebook page, please let us know where you're watching from. Also, whatever you'll be able to learn from this story, please do share with us so that we can also share with the other viewers what you have been able to learn from the story. So we continue. So the funeral is upon Mr. B. What does Mr. B do? Because Mr. B no longer has money. These are real life situations. It happens. It can happen to anyone. So Mr. B had, a firm support system of friends. And that's how quickly he managed to make a few calls here and there, to try and get friends to help, to do a committee. So there's one trusted friend that he has, and he just said, okay, this is my situation. We have a comment from Rosina Momba saying following. Thank you. So then, that's how that friend, trusted friend, quickly did a WhatsApp group, a funeral committee and everything. Quickly, they were able to raise some few money within a short period of time, because, that's his wife who's died. How does he go back to a funeral house without a penny? He had to do something. So quickly, the friends started throwing in a few funeral grants coming here and there. He managed to raise something, and the time that he was going to the funeral home, at least he had something with him. So that's how when he reached there, well, you know how funerals are. Suddenly, he's surprised that the atmosphere changed, okay? The same people that he was with when they went to, when they were at the review, her family, the people that he knew were also his family. Suddenly, they just changed. And by changed, we mean they had a cold shoulder towards him. And he was wondering why. So you see, one, he is mourning. Okay? It's sudden shock because she just collapsed and the review showed everything was fine. Because if something was a problem, they were just from the review, obviously they would have stated there's this of that, or maybe a concern or everything. But the review went well, so it was just a sudden death, you know, because the review went well. So he's still in shock, okay? He's mourning, and he's mourning his wife. And then here are family members who now are, we don't know if we'd say we're angry at him, but are showing this very cold shoulder towards him, kind of like animosity towards him. So, well, it's a funeral. He gives the money, at least, you know, plus a bit of his family members contributed something, and yeah, day one passed, day two, until the day of, you know, the burial came. And that's how they went to bury. After the burial, when they went back home, there's always that meeting, you know, that meeting that happens after the burial. So the time they were having that meeting, it was like around 23 hours. That's the time he told us himself. He said it was 23 hours. And in that meeting, of course, you know how funerals are. You get to have so many people, relatives come from all over, okay? They come from all over, and probably some don't even know you as a spouse. Maybe that's when they are getting to meet you, you know how. And he told us that there were some relatives that came from as far as out of Zambia, you know, some neighboring countries. So, yeah, one of them gets to ask and says, so who among here, people seated here, was married to our late daughter? And then the brother-in-law, okay, who apparently, according to him, thought they were in good terms, instead of just saying to say, oh, it's him who was married to her, you know, instead of just pointing at him, goes to say, you know, all of us here. So if there's a face you don't know, that's the one, you know. And he's shocked and he's like, is this my brother-in-law? What's happening? What have I done? You know. So that meeting commenced 23 hours. And then he's just sensing things are not going well here. Part of his family were also there in the meeting. And then one of these old people from, you know, some villages somewhere just says, actually we're told when you were marrying, there was a balance that remained. You didn't pay the full bride price, and there was a balance of 500 kwacha. So you need to pay up that balance now. You can imagine. Then they said, if you don't have the money now, we're going to give you up to tomorrow 10 hours to pay. So he was not aware there was a balance, because, you know, maybe his uncles, when they were doing the negotiations and they did the payments, he didn't know that there's a balance that had remained, and that was like almost 7 years after a marriage. So I mean, so now he's thinking, okay, they need the money, okay, that's fine, I'll find the 500 kwacha, because already, imagine, we already established that after all the high medical bills, he was really out of money. Second, when the funeral came, it was all upon him. All the expenses were upon him. And his friends, his close family members, are the ones who helped. And then they are saying there's this 500 kwacha remaining. So he said, okay, I'll find means and ways of clearing this balance. But then it doesn't end there. Then they say, looking at the period of time that this 500 kwacha has been outstanding, we might say that now the value of the 500 kwacha then and today is not the same. So, because now they are compounding it, and they say now that 500 kwacha is worth 3,000 kwacha. So that's the money you have to pay us right now or tomorrow by 10 hours. And then he's wondering now, like, okay, so it's now 3,000 kwacha. He's very confused. And while that meeting is going on, he's now thinking, we're going to find that, because I've exhausted all my sources and these people are not playing. This is 23 hours and they're only giving me up to 10 hours tomorrow. And look at the period of time. Where really can someone find a 3,000 kwacha within that period of time when you've exhausted all your sources? While the meeting was ongoing, he got his phone and he kept typing Luckily, he saw a message from one of a trusted friend which was sent much earlier during the, and it was like, oh, I'm sorry, he didn't even see that message. So when he saw it, he said he sent that message. Many members were there, but since it was late, so now later on he checked, then he saw there was actually a 500 kwacha in his pocket which his sister had put. Then he says, oh wow, now I have a 1,000. Where do I find 2,000? Because that was the balance remaining now. So the people are busy talking in the meeting. He's not even concerned. He was busy in such a serious meeting. So one time, of a friend of his from, way back, and let me try this person. He sends to the other friend and says, I'm so sorry I didn't inform you, but your mulam here passed away. I'm really in need of some cash. And he also became brutal. As he was telling us the story, he said, these people were being so mean and bad to me. And at that moment, I forgot that they were actually in-laws. I also just became mean. And when that pastor asked me, where do you think you're going? He just looked at him and told him, I'm going to find the money. Isn't it you want the money? That's how he just got his jacket, put on his jacket, went. Walking, not even driving. Because he was so confused. He left his cars. He didn't even think of his car keys of it. He just walked out. That's 04 hours. And when that pastor saw that, he woke up and he started alerting everyone, hey, he's awake, he's gone. And when he saw that everyone was now alert, seeing the fact that he woke up and he was walking away, he said he started running. As he narrated, he said, I didn't know where I was going. It was dark. One thing I did, I just made a phone call to someone. And that's 04. You can imagine. I made a phone call to someone who answered, and I told them, I need your help. Meet me at this place, somewhere near the funeral house. And luckily, he just ran. He said, I just started running in the night. I just turned into a road. They thought I turned, then I quickly turned back. So by the time everyone was chasing after him, they went into the turn he went, and then he went this way, but they didn't see. That's how he managed to lose them. And luckily, at that meeting place, that friend of his was there with the car waiting. Wow, what kind of friendship is that? Someone calls you that early and you are there for them. And then when he reached there, he got in the car and he had to say, who do I call this time who can help me with that 500 kwacha? He remembered one close friend of his. He called that lady, and that lady said, you can come through when it's 8 hours, 8 hours. He quickly went to that shop of that lady, and that friend of his was with him all the way, because he's one of those that already helped, and they were trying to find means of how to get the extra money. So they went to that place where the lady said, come. That's how he got that 500 kwacha in cash. That's how he went to the ATM. He drew all the e-wallets that his friends went, 3,000 kwacha in his hands, and that was about 9 hours before 10. Drove back to the funeral house. He reached there. He just put the money on the table. Boom! He threw it there. And then he said, there is your money. And then they were like, oh, they were like excited now that, he's brought the money, because obviously they thought maybe he just ran away. Or maybe he was going to commit suicide because he was not in his proper mental state. And now, listen what happens. When he gave them that 3,000 kwacha, gave them to say, here is the money that you wanted. You won't believe. That's the same money they got to use to book a canter, all right, and drive to his home. Remember, he was at the funeral home, not at their marital home. They used that same money to drive to his home, and they went to get all his property. Everything they packed in that canter. He was not even aware of what was happening. This is Transforming Lives with Mushekwa. Don't go anywhere. Catch me after the break as we conclude the story.
Munati.
Meaning something sweet.
Munati, your TV on the go.
Catch us anywhere, anytime, as long as you have a device and internet.
Munati TV is Zambia's first internet TV station.
And internet is just not in Zambia, meaning Munati TV cuts across all borders with viewers all the way from USA, Botswana, South Africa, the UK, and world over.
Internet is the future.
And the future is now.
Welcome to the future. Welcome to Munati.
Your TV on the go.
Your TV on the go. This is Munati TV. And this is Transforming Lives with Moshekwa. Real life stories right here within our country. Property grabbing. What really is property grabbing? You know, a spouse dies and apparently family members of the deceased go and get property from the surviving partner and, you know, get all of it. I really don't know why people do that. That's like another whole discussion. But is property grabbing still ongoing? This story we're sharing with you is something that happened within the last 2 years. So it's quite recent to note that actually people are still practicing property grabbing. That is so sad to learn. We're sharing you a story of someone who went through this in his life. We're calling him Mr. B because he just gave us permission to share his experience with you, our viewers. The funeral ends and it's time to go back home. Mr. B now goes back to his home, reaches his house, and all he finds are his clothes in the bedroom. So you can imagine, goes to the kitchen, there's totally nothing. Totally nothing. No cooker, no fridge, no plates, nothing. Goes to the living room, totally nothing. No TV, nowhere to sit, no carpet, nothing. They only left curtains. Goes to the other rooms, all the beds taken. His room, his bedroom, bed gone. They only left his clothes. That's all they left. Now, what kind of treatment is that for someone who, one, has lost his wife? Two, and this is a woman, according to him, he said he loved his wife so much. Three, the financial strain. They literally left everything to him. And now, the final charge, the 3,000 kwacha, from 500 compounded, 3,000 kwacha. You can imagine the stress he went through just to find that 3,000 kwacha. Gives it to them, they go to his house, book a counter from the same, and go and grab all his things. Like, is that really fair? So now, he was in a state of confusion. Mr. B, even if you knew him, you'll hear him say he has vowed he will never marry again. We do hope and pray, you know, that Mr. B will change his thoughts towards that, and that this was just one of those bad experiences that he's gone through in life, and that probably the next time he marries, he might not have, you know, such a situation, or might be married to a spouse whose family will not be able to do such things in case of unforeseen circumstances. In his own words, Mr. B says, number one, he said, I was grieving. I was grieving and no one was there to comfort me. Number two, he says, I was treated like an enemy. I was treated so badly and I was wondering why I was being treated like that. Number three, he says, he was in a state of confusion. Confusion to the fact that if he wasn't strong, he would have gone into depression. Here is someone from a funeral in an empty home. How do you live? This is very, very emotional. He had to pick himself up, of course, because Mr. B was not a full-time worker. Mr. B is a businessman, and business, of course, was on hold the whole time that there was the funeral, so it was on hold. And in business, sometimes it's not every time that you're making money. And he says, the first money he was able to get, some sensible money that he was able to get, the first thing he bought in that house was a TV. He said, I only bought a TV so that it could take away my deep thoughts. If he's not doing, it was even hard for him to go back to business just there and then. Because really, you're from a funeral, all your money is gone, you have no money, and you have no staff at all. Like, there's all this confusion. Obviously, you can't just quickly go back to business. But he said he just pushed himself. And when he was able to get something tangible, the first thing he bought was a TV. And he would just watch the TV until he sleeps off while watching the TV, just so that he could not drain himself with all those thoughts. This is a story that happened to someone, and they gave us this permission to share it to you. This is something that happened to someone, but let's learn how Mr. B was able to come out of that situation. We can learn that Mr. B was strong. We can't really explain the strength that he had. But if it were someone else, maybe they would have just committed suicide. Or maybe they would have just, gone mentally ill or something. But Mr. B did not go into any form of depression, thankfully. What else do we learn from him? We learn that he had a very good support system. You can imagine, 01, you're calling someone, people are able to even, help you with money. 04, you call a friend to say, meet me here, I'm in their need. Just there and then someone reacts and they meet you. And, call someone, 04, I need some money, please help, this is an emergency. Someone responds. Mr. B had a strong support system. Without it, he would not have managed. We don't want to give monetary reform, but he tells us the bills that he was able to cut, the hospital bills, up to, because when the funeral happened, he literally had no coin because all his little savings had gone to the hospital bills. We can't equate it, but when he told us the figure, it was quite a huge amount of money. What else we learn from him is that it's important to save, because you never know what unexpected things can come before you. If Mr. B didn't have a good amount of a savings, close to like a 30,000 of a savings or a 50,000 of a savings, we don't know how he would have managed, because this family people were very clear and they just said, we don't have money. And as he put it, he said they literally did nothing. It is important to save, because by saving, you are preparing for unforeseen circumstances. We don't know what the future holds. We don't know, what we can go through in the future that will need you to have saved up something. We are thankful Mr. B has taught us that you need to save up for unforeseen circumstances. The last thing that we learn from him is that this is life, it happens. Pick yourself up, keep going. As we talk now, Mr. B is, back to normal living. There's one thing that he's vowed, of course. We don't blame him. It was the experience that he went through. He says, I was badly treated. And because of that experience, that mental torture I went through, I will never marry again. Well, that is according to him. And as we said earlier, we can only wish that he can have a change of mind towards that, and that he will be able to find a family. Well, since his reaction is not really towards a spouse, but it's the family, the family of the spouse, because his wife, according to him, he didn't have any problems with his wife. But it's how he was treated after his wife died. That is what caused him a lot of mental stress. So we hope you've been watching. Maybe we can take a few comments and see how you've been following the program and what you've been able to, learn and pick up from this program. Otherwise, this has been a very real life story that has happened within our country. We have Genesis Mulendema. She's saying following from Lusaka. Thank you, Lusaka, for following. I don't know if we have any other comments. Alexander Mohammed, Copper Belt in tune, I think. Copper Belt Kitwe. Yes, Copper Belt Kitwe. I think I got that right. We have Munati Zambia. Is that a group or something? I'm following. Well, I can't see that. It's not so clear. But we have Munati Zambia there. Thank you for tuning in and for following. We have Jack Gale. I don't know if it's Gale. Sorry if I mispronounce your names. My eyes are not very good, so I actually need a pair of glasses. But thank you, Jack Gale. You said you're following us, which is great. Yeah, we'll pick the last two. Patrick Muviana. Hello, Patrick Muviana. Thank you for tuning in. You're saying following you from Mamba. Yeah. Wow. All the way. So internet is just not in Lusaka. Wow. Internet is all over Zambia. Thank you for tuning in. Maybe we'll pick the last one. We'll pick one last more as we, interact with you and see how you've been following this program. Otherwise, we are thankful to you. Oh, we have Jack again. Marriage and, well, it's a bit too far from me, but thank you, Jack. Really, thank you for all the lessons, and I'm sure even the viewers are able to see the comments that you've put up there, which are also helpful to other people. So this has been Transforming Lives. Oh, we have one last more. Stanley Malisani Chisankulo. Thank you for having tuned in. Thank you so much for following this program on Munati TV. So this program comes to you every Sunday, where we're talking about how stories have been transformational to people sharing them and how they can be transformational to you. And we give real life stories and lessons here. So this has been Transforming Lives. I'm your host, Mushakwa. We'll come to you next week, Sunday. Please be sure to tune in again. This is Munati TV, your television on the go. And until next time, pick yourself up and keep moving, just like Mr. B. I hope you learned something from this story. Goodbye.
Munati. Meaning something sweet.
Munati, your TV on the go.
Catch us anywhere, anytime, as long as you have a device and internet.
Munati TV is Zambia's first internet TV station.
And internet is just not in Zambia, meaning Munati TV cuts across all borders with viewers all the way from USA, Botswana, South Africa, the UK, and world over.
Internet is the future.
And the future is now.
Welcome to the future. Welcome to Munati.
Your TV on the go.